All right, good afternoon, everyone. To the Ricky family, Sanjeev Bhai, Sharuben, all of you. Sorry, I inadvertently closed my eyes during the dhyan, and I saw the chat a little later that my voice wasn't coming through as much. I will try to fix it. I got that feedback earlier today when we had the India session also, so I will look into it why that is happening. I think I'm speaking in normal volume, but there may be some technicality to it. And also, Vijay, hi, I didn't see you. I'm trying to get in. My eyes were closed, and so it took me a while to admit you. So welcome again, everyone. This is our second session, but really the first one, and it's like a full-on first chapter start of it. So I want to invite. Feel free to unmute yourselves if there are any reactions, any immediate reactions, or thoughts, or suggestions, or questions, either based on the session from last time or in general what you may have thought. We will experiment something differently here at any time. Please feel free. I've unmuted, I've muted it, but you should be able to unmute yourselves. Say, so let me pause for a moment. Anyone, any thoughts or questions, concerns? Okay. If you do think of anything, any suggestion, please don't hesitate. And so we'll launch into the first chapter. I think, I'm assuming most of you have the context of the epic battle Mahabharata. If you don't, let me know. We can have a quick offline crash course on it. If most of you don't, which I seriously doubt, then we can, otherwise we can just take like half of a session to go through the context of it, like why war? What was it and why were they fighting? Although you can imagine family feud, the most common, if not the most common war, right? Like some sort of a conflict, some sort of a controversy. And so here we are. Last time, as I had mentioned to you, like about 7:45 a.m. At a place called Kurukshetra. Kuru has two connotations to it. Kuru was a dynasty in which majority of these warriors, a lot of these were the main opponents. The heads of the clans were born in that dynasty, Kuru dynasty. Kuru was a king of yore, and from him had continued the progeny that was this Kuru dynasty. Both sides, interestingly, both sides belong to the Kuru dynasty. But the Pandavas were called Pandavas, not Kauravas, because they were sort of a faction in themselves. It was as if they had rebelled, as if they had separated themselves. And the truth is, the rebellion was on the majority side, and they were trying to preserve and restore goodness. But because they were the minority, they got the impression as if they were the rebels. They were the ones who were leaving their clan, and therefore called Pandavas, which is the name after their father Pandu, king. But in fact, Pandu and Dhritarashtra, who was the Kaurav side of the head, they were both sons and descendants of the Kuru dynasty. So technically, they're all Kauravas. Kuru. So that's one. Kuru in Sanskrit also means doing, action, performance. And Kshetra is field, a field where you perform. This life in itself, or this body in which I perform. Right? I'm making some broad assumptions that, generally speaking, we're aware of our philosophy, the Sanatan as we call it, philosophy that we're not the body, we're not even the mind, that we're none of the ones that can be seen, felt, touched, burned, wetted, dried, any of that. And all of this will come in the second chapter when we get to it. But it generally is common knowledge in the Indian heritage that we somewhat believe that we're not the body, and that we are someone, something, it, whatever, that resides and animates and drives and energizes the body, performs in the body. The body performs because of some actor, some force, call it vital force, vital energy, life force, Jivan Shakti, Chetana, Chaitanya, consciousness, awareness. Take your pick. Generally speaking, there are various aspects of the same energy. That we are that, the real me, real I am that. Thou art that, you are that. Over time, you'll hear some of these great aphorisms. They're called the Mahavakyas in Sanskrit, meaning like great statements. For example, Tat Tvam Asi, you are that. Right? There is a long dissertation on that. What you are, that is what. But in time, all that. But generally speaking, we know that we are not what we appear to be, what we seem to be, and yet we are in this field. In the 13th chapter, when we get to it, the whole of 13th chapter is devoted. We're in the first chapter. We haven't even started the first chapter, and you will see the characteristics of this Gita yogis, that we take liberties to go all over the place, all over in the Gita and other scriptures also, because we go by theme rather than by a verse. So any context that supports it, any reference that enriches it, will bring it in. And so in the 13th chapter I'm mentioning, because those who are interested, they can go forward and read it. It talks about the field and the knower of the field. Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that you're not this body, neither are your enemies that you think are going to die. The real them, nothing happens to them. These are just the animated bodies. And so the point here, though, is the Kurukshetra. There is a parallel, right? There is the real story that unfolded, the history of India. The battle was real. This was a civil war. The people were real. The place was real. The time was real. Real as real can be. We will see about that over time, what's real and what's not, and to what extent real. But for today, it was all real. You can go and see evidence of it. You can spend some time at Kurukshetra. You can feel the vibrations. I have a few times. You can visit. There's this 84 square mile area across which the battle, the two sides were spreaded, or the numerous battles in that great war were fought. You can visit those places and see some evidence. So there was some reality. There is reality to it in a sense. And so while that battle was performed on that field, performance, Kuru, this is a field in which there's no moment really when there is not a battle, some battle going on, whether it's subtle or gross, at gross level or subtle level. There's some conflict, some controversy, some opposition, either within ourselves or this with someone else. And so the parallel is that while that real battle was going on, there is also this duality, as I was saying during the dhyan, either the temptations or the aversions. And the conflict between those two, they are also going on. They're causing confusion, causing conflict, causing insecurity, causing fear, causing anxiety, making us nervous, maybe even making us upset, or maybe even perhaps angry, maybe even so angry that we become revengeful. And so there's no telling to what extent, just like this war, which was fought over 18 days, it was a horrific war. It was a decisive terminal war. People were going to live or die, no in between. And that was the big deal about this war. So as we get into this, so that's Kurukshetra, right? As was that, so is this, right here. Hold on to that theme because it'll come again and again in the Gita reflections. And there's a specific phrase for that in Sanskrit, which is a very famous phrase in the Upanishads. Yatha pinde tatha brahmande. Pinda is this sort of small lump, like an egg, a small egg. Yatha is as is, in a small place, like here. Tatha is so is there, where Brahma ande. Brahma is the biggest. Anda is egg. In other words, the galaxies, right? They're elliptical in shape. They look like a golden egg. In Sanskrit, it's called that. Hiranya is gold. Brahmanda, it's called Brahma Anda. Brahma is the biggest. Anda is egg. And so Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande signifies that so is here as is all there. Because we're connected. We will also see this through like the 10th and the 11th chapter, how we're part of the system, how we're a component in the whole system. We're not fragments, we're not broken apart, separated pieces. We are like the waves in an ocean that are not separate really. They look separate, they look independent, momentarily only, but they really are components, connected one with and in the ocean. Just like the dream characters appear to be different from the dreamer, but they're really in the dreamer, and in fact they are the dreamer. So, a gold and jewelry, different jewels look like they're different, but the gold is the same. And so we'll see all that Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. And so Kurukshetra, as was there, so is here. As was some 5,200 years ago, so is today, right here, right now. This morning some thoughts came, this evening some might come, and there will be some things that will be tempted towards, and other that we will feel an aversion for. It could be people, it could be things, objects, it could be circumstances, it could be memories, it could be our own mind, our own thoughts that we really like and we so hate. So the clash of clans, if you will, is always going on. Just like we see on with teenagers, clash of clans is always on. And again, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande, as is here, so is there. And so therefore it becomes really important for us to figure out, okay, what's my position in this? What am I going to do? Which side am I on? Can I pick a side? Can I stay on that side forever? Do I have to change sides? Do situations come in life and when I have to flip-flop? Is that right? Is it moral? Where is the line between morality and immorality? What's religion? What's my duty? What's really not my duty? How should I show up? How should I behave? These are the big questions that create conflict with time and place and people. At the same time, at the same place, two different people might feel quite differently about that. Or the same person might feel this way about it, but really felt differently back then, or might feel differently about the same situation later on. Or the same person, the time is the same, but if I'm here in the US, I feel in a certain way. If I'm over there in India, I might feel differently, because again the context changes. And so this is a very dynamic realm, right? That's the trouble. Already we're confused, and then it's always shifting. It's so dynamic. It changes with time, it changes with place, it changes with person, and it just changes with some random thoughts that I have that I just start thinking differently. And it becomes very important to find that anchor, in which to be grounded, so that we're tethered, right? We might go a little bit here and there, but we're tethered to the truth, to the supreme eternal truth, that we cannot be lost anymore. We see in this first chapter that Arjuna feels like completely lost. He's completely, all this time, for whatever 12, 13 years, he had collected his anger towards his opponents, because that day will come, he had resolved, when I will have my day in the court and I'll show you how I feel about you. My might, my prowess, I've done all this tapasya, all these austerities, I've made all these sacrifices to accumulate so much prowess, so much ardor, right? The age is ardor. I'm going to unleash that fury on this side. And the day has come, and the time has come. 8 o'clock, conch shells have begun blowing. The time's at 8 o'clock, 7:45, everybody, like I said last time, the elephants and the horses and all that. And just when the time came, he's complete 180-degree turn. That's a huge problem for his side. Huge, like fatal. It could be fatal. The war could be over before it begins. That is the sort of backdrop of the first chapter, and really of the entire Gita. Keep in mind that the Gita isn't really about the war, like this war, meaning it doesn't indulge in it. It it doesn't like just stay in the war topic and like again and again just talks about fight. Once in a while, Sri Krishna mentions that in sort of the beginning chapters, Tasmat uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya kritanishchaya. You just get up, rise, awake, get ready for the battle. You must fight. He mentions it a few times, but the Gita after the first chapter really isn't about the message of the conversation is not about the battle itself. At least it's not about the battle that's in front of them at Kurukshetra. It starts to go inward, pointing to the battle inside. Because what is revealed as we end the first chapter is that really the Arjun's challenge now has turned inside. The fiercest enemy lives within. Majority of the problems are in us, with us. And they really are not problems. We've identified with those. The Gita will instruct us and demonstrate to us that they aren't really problems. We do not have to be at their mercy. We've identified with them as if we don't have any other choice. That's the truth. And so Arjuna is grief-stricken here. That, oh my God, nayo daseti govindam. You will hear it in the first chapter. One of the shlokas I picked for today and the next time, before we finish this chapter. Nayo daseti govindam. Oh, he just takes out his mighty bow and his just all the arrows in his repertoire and just puts them, sits down, head down, shaking, weeping, I shall not fight, Govinda, I shall not fight. So, very confused. And that's where the chapter ends, the first chapter ends. And then, as I said during the Dhyan, the rest of the Gita is about how is Krishna, there's not much time left. Get him up, like pump energy into him that quickly and as much energy as needed to not only fight really, but win the war. So, and that's when the Gita shines the best. That's where it shows up. So it sure is going to help us with our smaller problems also. We at least don't have to kill our own decisively. Our problems are not that big. Our own kith and kin, our own relatives, our own friends, our own families, our cousins. We don't have. This is a terminal war. The irony is this: the opponents of Arjuna, he had shooed them away a few times before in skirmishes and different battles. He could do the same here now also. But because this was a fatal war, because one side needed to win or the other, they were going to kill. If you don't kill them, they're going to kill you. So there's no way around it. And that he could not do. He could fight the war, he could win the war, but to have to kill his own. He didn't mind, he absolutely could kill. But his own, the problem was, how can I kill my own? And so that's the crux of the matter, my own. Where the theme will take us is what you've misidentified with as your own is where all the challenges have arisen. So let's start with the first shlok, very significant shlok in some ways. The first shlok and the last shlok of the Gita, there are 700. Shlok means verse. There are 700 verses in the Gita, super packed, as densely packed as can be imagined, not humanly possible. It has to be divine grace to pack so much into just 700 verses in the form of poetry, that too. And so each shlok then absolutely is charged and carries a tremendous significance. And we will still pick some of the choicest ones. I'll take the liberty. I have definitely picked the first one And it goes like this: Dharma kshetre, Kuru kshetre, Samaveta yuyutsava, Mamaka Pandava Shaiva, Kim Kurvata Sanjaya. It's in the form of a question. And the last verse is in the form of a resolution. It's interesting. The entire chapter is in the form of the entire chapter is in the form of Q&A. It starts with the question, and these are between different people. So here it is, Dhritarashtra, the first chapter. By the way, I should again, when my floodgates open, it becomes hard for me to contain, stop myself. Sorry, I was a little bit distracted. Our son has fever in a college campus, is what he had said. But now he's texting, I don't have fever, I don't have fever. So, and the rest of the family is saying, okay, great, all that. So, in these days, even a little bit of fever can be distracting. So, pardon me for that. But the name of this chapter is Arjuna Vishad Yoga. The first chapter is Arjuna Vishad Yoga. I'm going to turn it around. Arjun, naturally, the hero of this, the main character here. Vishad is, I mean, to be literal, the poison within. Vish, At, right? At is inside. Vish is poison. But Vishad, so the poison within is really the grief, right? The negativity, the confusion, the sense of insecurity, all the anger, the dejection, the depression, the confusion, all that is sort of that mixed poison within. So Arjun, Vishad, Arjun finds himself sort of drowning in that pool of poison inside within him. Yoga. Each chapter will end in yoga, which is like uniting. Pulled up again. Yoga is uniting again, as if someone gave him a hand and pulled him up again. The being pulled out of this situation is a yoga in a way, one interpretation. Yoga truly means uniting, simply, that's it. Uniting with, becoming one with, homogeneously uniting with. Where there are not two left, true union, alloy, right? A solid alloy that are welded so securely that it's no longer two. And that's yoga. And so the idea is that for us, the individuals, to unite with the whole. That's yoga. For the parts to become having this conviction that I'm Atma, the soul, not a part, but the whole. And that's the state of yoga. That I might look like a wave, but when my consciousness expands across the waves, I realize that I am really the ocean. Here, momentarily, I've assumed, I've constricted my consciousness, falsely identifying with the limited and therefore trying to hoard the limited and being stuck in that limited mind, in the small ego. Therefore, I think I'm this little one. But I'm really not the little one, because actually I'm the big one. All my life, my only effort is to expand, expand, expand. I want more, 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 different, different, different. And this, and this, and that, and that. I want to read more, I want to hear more, I want to receive more, I want to get more, I want to buy more, I want to eat more, see more. All more, more, more. Because I know somewhere that there's no limit to me. I'm not finite. I'm the infinite. This doesn't feel right for me to be in this body. It's somehow, I can't put a finger on it. I don't know what it is. Intuitively, this is not feeling right, that I'm limited by this. Therefore, I might try buying another house or getting a third car or this or that, right? More, 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 all that. So when the realization comes that the problem is not with how much you have, it is with what you identify with. So one of the themes of the Gita will be that currently we have misidentified with the body, the physical, the form. So our task is to disidentify with it. the one with which we have we have to disidentify and then re-identify with the whole, with the complete. The job is done. Once when that light bulb goes on, once that experience clicks, it's like the mind sweeper opening. The whole thing reveals itself within us. That's the goal of that's all of the goal of human life. And so it's obviously a loaded concept. The Gita will slowly hold our hands, walk with us, take baby steps, and take us there. It's a fantastic journey. It takes time. We must walk slow to get there quicker. But going fast, we will trip and fall and lose, or reach there only to find that I actually went in the opposite direction. I went very fast in the opposite direction. So I'm now farther than I was before I started. We don't want to do that. We've got time. And so we will slow down. We'll pick the right stones, not the wobbly ones. Step on those securely, be careful, and then assuredly cross this challenging river. So the first so Dhritarashtra is the blind king who is unwilling to give up the throne that he's ruling on to the righteous heirs of it, because he's so attached to his son, who is very corrupt as can be, very abusive and very corrupt. Duryodhan, he's completely ego laden. That's Duryodhan. His father is blind. Again, there is an allegory here, right? Rhetorically, if you think about it, his father is blind. He's blind, not paying attention to, conniving at this corrupt character. And the reasonable ones, the rational ones, Pandavas, unwilling to let them rule, which was once theirs and now really does belong to them as well. And so that Dhritarashtra, the unrighteous emperor, is saying to his secretary, really his charioteer, his assistant, his admin, however you want to think of it, actually was his friend also. In fact, he is his step brother. That again, there's a story, an interesting story associated with these characters, which we will skip. Those of you who are interested in, let me know, we can cover at some point. Sanjay was really his stepbrother, but for a variety of reasons was his charioteer and was subordinate and inferior to the emperor also. So he's asking, Dhritarashtra is asking his associate, his brother, his servant, if you will, who's sitting by his master's side, the first verse, Dharma kshetre, Kurukshetre, Samaveta yuyutsava, Mamaka, Pandavaschaiva, Kim Kurvata Sanjay. It's a question. Kim is what Kurvat is doing. What are they doing? So, hey Sanjay, his name is Sanjay, because he's blind, he's asking, you might know now that Sanjay had television, right? Tele is distance, telephone, television, telemetry. So he had distant vision. He was granted this for a period of time. He got a 14-day free trial, 18-day trial from this. The internet service provider at that time was only one. Vyasmuni had granted him the key to plug in, that you will be able to see what's happening there. And so Sanjay has that ability to perceive what's happening on the battleground. And so the blind king is asking him, hey Sanjay, can you narrate for me? Can you tell me what's happening now? It's about 7:30, 7:45. They're all ready. Both of them are ready back in Delhi, right? This Hastinapur is an area in Delhi. Kurukshetra is northwest, I believe. Either straight north or a little bit northwest of Delhi. Maybe I don't know, 150 miles or so. So he's saying, narrate for me. Tell me what's happening now. It's like a cricket match, like a one-day match. Everybody's like, all set, breakfast done. Don't want to miss this. And he's also confident but nervous about his son's victories. So the question is, Kim Kuruvata Sanjaya? What are they doing, Sanjay? Narrate to me. Who are they? Mamaka Pandava Cha Eva. Cha is and, Eva, all of those. Who? Mamaka. Mam is me in Sanskrit. Mamaka is those who belong to me. And Pandava, those who belong to my brother. Pandu was his younger brother who died of a heart attack. Young, relatively. His boys, these 5 kids, Pandavas, were quite young at the time. They were like 10, 8, 6, 4, 2, something like that, those 5. And their mother had single-handedly raised them through a lot of torture. So saying, those who belong to Pandu, my brothers, and those who belong to me, Mamaka Pandavascheva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. And so the significance of this verse is partly in this, other than being the first verse of this epic scripture, that the moment this distinction comes in our mind, that me and mine, you and yours, assuredly there is a challenge, there is a problem, there is going to be, there will be trouble. So watch for that, right? Right off the bat, first sign is to look for that. Anytime we're saying mine, me and mine, you and yours, something is not right there. There's some battle that's possible in there. Because we will figure in the end that there is no such thing really, that me and mine and you and yours. This is an artificial, it's a concocted differentiation. It's a concocted division. These are imaginary lines. These are not real lines drawn within me and mine. These are lines drawn by the physical, by the body, because we think for the body, and it's limited to this, therefore whatever belongs to this much is me and mine. Whatever belongs to some other forms is you and yours, and she and hers, and he and his, and they and theirs. Right? Like these days we put under our signatures. He, him, his, she, her, hers, they, them, theirs, like that. So, too focused on individuality at the time. So, Mama, and so watch for that. If those kinds of thoughts are coming up, then with certainty there is some trouble. There's like we're distracted from the tract, right? Distracted from the path. The other significance of it is that Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra Samaveta, the first line of it. Kshetra is field. Kuru is, as I explained previously, performance. So this is a field of performance. This is where performance happens. This is where you gotta perform. This is where one has to do his or her part dutifully. So it's a place where that life is that playground. This body is the field in which I perform. I live in it, and through it I perform. Whatever tasks I do, good and bad, any deeds, the thoughts that I think are in this. The words I speak are through this, and the actions I perform are also due to it or with it. So whether in it, through it, or with it, manasa, vacha, karmana. It's in our the ideology. It's a manas, mind, the thinker. Vacha is vani, speech, and karma is action, like the hand and the legs and all of those. So the misalignment between those three, when the behavior does not reflect what's inside. So again, that's it. Lord, it'll come in due course of time. I'm just giving you some nuggets of how this first look itself starts to unlock, throw out some keys and some indications about what to expect in the Gita. So Dharma Kshetre, Kuru Kshetre. So Dharma Kshetra, this is of my inherent duty. Dharma is not Hindu, it is those two, but that is just a very superficial meaning. Hindu, Muslim, Christian, those are very superficial, very artificially against set of rules, behaviors or preferences, imagined principles, those we're stuck in those as dharma. That's what we think of dharma as, religion. That was never the case in our dharma. There was never a mention of those as dharma. Anytime there was the mention of dharma, it was dharma was sanatan dharma, which means the original, which means the inherent, which means the intrinsic, which means the natural, which means the ever existing, ever relevant, never out of fashion. There will never be a time that these rules will not apply, that these characteristics will not show up. There is no place in all of creation where this doesn't apply. If it's a physical realm, if it has been created, if it is born from somewhere, whether or not we know from where, even if you believe in the Darwin evolution, still originally created, if you believe that was created out of matter, so be it. It was created. If it was created, then this applies. By the way, where did matter come from? If animal kingdom, plant kingdom was simply a combination of matters created from matter, I don't know if I'd shared this. I think Sanjeeva, you might have heard this joke before, but I'm reminded of it. With all the science progress and this rockets going on Mars and all that, man becoming audacious, bodacious, and very confident, ready to challenge God and the Creator, saying, Creator, we think we've now figured you out, and we've parallel, we've become as good as you. We can do what you can do. We can pretty much create what you can. We have robots, we have medicines, we have vaccines, we have this, that. We can destroy like you can destroy, and we can create like we can create. And we annihilated in the Twin Towers, we rebuild them back. Hiroshima, Nagasaki destroyed, they're rebuilt back. And everything else. And we've got, again, the robots and all that. So we come down, let's compete, let's have fun. A challenge thrown by man to God. And the message comes, okay, I'm ready. When and where? Tell me. And so there's a pavilion, the time is set, the day is set, and the Lord descends down. And say man was created from dirt, the Bible says, all that. So say, okay, what we can make what you can make. Everything's ultimately created from dirt. So God, here's a pile of dirt for you, and here's a pile of dirt for us. Now let's compete. What should we make? What do you want to make? So God smiles and says, not so fast. You bring your own dirt. You bring your own dirt. So, the laws of nature that are so fundamental, and it isn't even just laws of nature. Even that's become a cliche. Right? The most fundamental laws that cut across all of creation. You may have heard of the string theory of Einstein, or that universal principle that there is something, one common simple answer, principle, formula, however, whatever it is, one force, one substance that has created everything else from which it is created. And so what is its nature? What is its composition? What is it made of? Is dharma. Whatever the answer to that is. And whatever that it is, our dharma, sanatan dharma, so are we. We are that. Not the body, not even the mind, not the intellect. These are just tools that have been given to us or we have created. Just like I'm not my computer, I'm not even my car, I'm not even this house. I use the house to live in comfortably. I use the car to drive myself wherever I want. I use the computer to gain the information that I need to perform my task. Those are just tools. I created those as a man, right? As a human. But that's not me. I'm a lot more than that. There's a lot more to me than those. They can come and go, and they do come and go. And with them, I don't have to come and go. They are dependent on me. I'm not dependent on them. I can always buy another one. I can evolve. I can make a better version. All that. So is everything around us, the entire material universe. But the Chaitan, it's the name given to that principle. We will use there are several names, but today let's call it Chaitan. Chaitanya, awareness, consciousness, vital force, energy, Jivan. Take your pick, Atma, right? So out of that and through that, in and through it, the creation has been formed. And I am that, I'm one with that. In the ocean are all the different waves, the mighty and the big and the small and the tall and the long and the high and the low. They're all in it and of it. And so are we in and of the cosmic entity, right? AKA God, also known as Krishna, or whomever else, however, whichever you like. No difference. So this is Dharma Kshetra, significant verse. That what will happen here, Gita was born here, righteousness will prevail, the evil shall perish. Upholders of goodness, upholders of truth, upholders of universal love, expectation-free love shall prevail, and the opposition shall perish. I don't know if I said it wrongly previously, but this is the unrighteousness shall perish. Righteousness shall prevail. And that's dharma, because dharma, our inherent quality, is set in goodness, is set in truth, is set in love. A moment ago I said, gee, I wonder what its composition is. The different elements in the compounds, the chemicals, they all have their own characteristics. They have their physical properties, their chemical properties, and all of those. What are the properties of this? It, truth, goodness, love. That's one way to put it. In reality, it's in Sanskrit, in our dharma, now Sanatana Dharma, it's Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Those are the three aspects. Three broad categories of this diamond called Atma or Paramatma. Sat is existence. So these are principles, because these are spiritual quality. These are not physical quality. These are intangibles. Spirit is not physical. Electricity flowing through the walls might animate the appliance and get some physical work done. But in the end, it's even the electrons, even to that minutest level. Not even the wire is physical, but really even the electrons, not even the charge in those is not physical. It's not matter. It's energy, different from matter. And so it's not material, so it's not physical, so it cannot be caught, it cannot be held, it cannot be seen, it cannot be touched, it cannot be tasted. I will die if I try to taste electricity. And yet it exists. In fact, it is what is powering everything around me. All of it. That's a principle. It's not an object, it's a principle. And so the first characteristic in principle is Sat, existence itself. So if I am Sat, I am existence, therefore I will never have to worry about my existence. I am existence, which means I'll never die, which means I was never born either, which means I have always existed and I will always exist. And how is that? We will see as the Gita unfolds. What sense does that make? It'll come up many, many times. And each time it will amplify and clarify. And this is just a sort of a cover. We're just looking at the cover of the Gita reflection today. So that's a Sat in very short. There's a lot can be said about that aspect alone, existence itself. The second aspect is Chit, as I said, Chaitanya, consciousness, awareness, the ability to understand, cognition. That's the second principle. I can cognize. The body doesn't until I in the body. The dead body no longer cognizes. The dead body is useless because the one who does sense has left the body, right? Has departed from the body. And so therefore the same senses, the same eyeballs, the same flesh and the blood are useless because the energy has left it. The matter is inferior. Matter is worthless without energy in it, right? So that's the Chaitanya. So Chaitanya is superior to Sat. These are evolving characteristics, one superior than the other. It's like a logarithmic scale, it's exponential. If Sat had a value of 1, Chit would have a value of 10, and the third one in the moment will have a value of 100, perhaps even more. This is just a way of saying it. I could not fit it in words, obviously. But what does that mean? Sat is existence. That we, I, you, everything, whatever, this always exists. So Chetan, the next thought will be, so what? So what? What's the big deal about it exists? I don't know what that means, and I don't care that it exists. So long as I don't understand it, if there's no use for it. As I often say in my other Gitas, that this stone in my backyard, they say it's been there for 10,000 years. It's existing there. So what? Existence. Well, this existence isn't just existence, it is actually Chetan existence. It knows itself. It knows, first of all. It is able to know. It knows, it is able to know, and in fact, it is knowledge. It isn't just know something or is able to know. It is knowledge itself, meaning wherever it is, that automatically knows itself. As an example, the rays of sun falling on any object lights up. That same lump of clay, that same blade of grass, whatever, in the night, in the dark night, I didn't know, was it a stump or is it a man standing? I don't know what it is. It looks like something else. And if it's even darker, I don't even know there's anything there. And as the rays of the sun fall on it, what happened? There was nothing there. Now suddenly I see a tree stump or a flower. It was there, you just couldn't see it. So the light falling on it brought it to as if light, right? It lit up because the light fell on it. It is the light that lit it up. The nature of light is to light up whatever it falls on. The nature of life is to life up. Whatever life falls on, it lifes up, meaning it starts to animate, it starts to look around, it starts to perceive, question, figure out, understand. And that you are, the Chaitanya, life itself, is the aphorism, you as in I and you and everyone else. So Sat Chit, okay, that's fine. I exist and I know. What do you want me to do with it? What should I eat with it? What's the use of I exist and I know? How long, what do I will exist forever and I will know. I don't know what to do with it. There's no joy in it. There's no fun in it. I exist and I know. Oh wait, and it is bliss itself. It exists, it knows, and it can, the more it knows, can actually experience joy, goodness, love, healing. In fact, where its nature is bliss, wherever it realizes it exists, it becomes joyful. It is like sugar that has forgotten that it imparts sweetness to any drop of water or any other substance that it mixes with. Its nature is sweetness. And therefore, if I am sweetness, or joy rather, bliss, once I experience that, once I know it, then I will no longer have to beg for it. I will not have to borrow it. I will not have to steal it. I will not have to hoard happiness. I will not have to save some happiness for the future. I will not have to worry about my happiness diminishing or being replaced with anxiety. Because I don't have to hoard anything. I am it. Sugar does not have to worry about how long can I store, where should I hide my sweetness. Hey, if you exist, you got sweetness, you're nothing but sweetness. Like that, if I exist, and once I experience this unity consciousness called yoga, the purpose of the Gita is to enlighten us in yoga. Once we experience that I am existence, I am consciousness, and I am bliss. Therefore, I have no worry, I have no fear. And these are the aphorisms in the Gita. They'll come later. One of these comes in the first verse in the 16th chapter. Abhayam sattva sanshuddhir jnana yoga vyavasthita. I am bliss. I am not looking anymore to step on anyone to try to get my own dignity. In fact, because I am that, I am going to from here on give, because I endlessly possess that. I am that. I'm going to give, not receive. In giving, I will receive. So that is dharma. And so dharma kshetra, that in this body, if I have arrived in this field, it is for me to realize that my dharma, it is for me to fully absorb in, fully figure out, fully and live in my dharma. And hence, the first word of the Gita is dharma kshetra. The second word of the Gita is kurukshetra. If I just sit around, I may never or just realize. I do and I understand. You may have heard the famous Confucius proclamation that I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. I am here to understand. Therefore, I must do. When I do something, I fully figure it, fully comprehend it. I've read lots of books on swimming. Not sure if you throw me in the pool, if I will sink or swim. I've heard a lot, I've read a lot, until I've actually swam. I've seen lots of videos on how to bike, but until I practice biking or anything, making roti, it's just watching YouTube video after YouTube videos will not. When I start mixing the atta with the water, then I start figuring, oh, I see, no, not this way, that way. And I do it a few times and then I get good at it. So in doing alone is the solution, in the full and therefore in this lifetime, that's all we've got to do. Whatever is our prescribed duty, whichever body we're in, a man, woman, however, right? Whoever are our relatives or friends, whatever our occupation, those are not the critical questions of life. Whatever I'm doing, how am I going to use it to situate in my dharma? Kurukshetra for the sake of dharma kshetra. So dharma kshetra first, dharma kshetra, kurukshetra, samaveta. They've gathered together. Yutsava. It's interesting. Utsav is festival. This festival of war. Celebratory. Why is he calling that? You will see in a moment. Like the next shloka itself gives a clue into it. His son, Duryodhan, is so confident of his victory. I'd alluded to that the last time. He's certain that he's going to win. And declaring victory before the war has even begun. And it's celebratory. And therefore this blind king is kind of sort of jubilating. Can't wait to have a party. So Yutsava, Yuddha Utsava, the festival of war. Someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. Those who win, what do after the Super Bowl, after the trophy? All kinds of beers and confetti and kissing the trophy, hugging each other. It's a festival. Just moments before that it was fighting, right? Again, clash of clan, butting heads, pulling legs. And now they're celebrating. That's a Yutsava. And so as is now, so was 5,200 years ago. These are all timeless principles. This is how it happens in every family, in every nation, in every culture. None is spared. So dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavaschaiva kim kuruvata sanjaya. What are those who are mine and those who are my brothers? Yeah. What are they doing? Tell me, Duryodhana. Sanjay, right? He's saying. So that's the loaded first shlok, one of the few that I picked from the first chapter for us to shed light on. I could easily devote like a whole session to this again, but we've got to keep some momentum, so we'll move. It's the last thing I'll mention though before leaving it, interestingly, first word is dharma of the Gita, and the last word, very last word, and last word of the 700th verse is mama, which means mine. It starts with dharma and it ends with mine, and in it is the entire Gita in that book. What is my duty? How shall I be? How should I show up? I don't understand. I want to know. What should I do? Right? Mama Dharma. And in between the entire sermon out there. So another very interesting pattern I realize is that it's like the permutations and combinations. If you take the first word and the last word, or if you take the second word and the second from the last word, if you take the third word and the third from the last word, if you take the fourth and the fifth and the sixth, and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth from the end, and if you just take those two, it's like a kaleidoscope. Interesting patterns come up because Sanskrit is such a modular language. You plug and play bits and pieces of it, and they make so much sense. Even that. So someday, when I'm old and retired and nothing better to do, I might play with it that way. This Gita kaleidoscope. That look, guys, I just stumbled upon something fantastic about the Gita. But that's years later. Gotta keep working for a few more. So this was the first shlok. In response to this question, Sanjay, his charioteer, the one who's been granted this television, says, Drishtva tu Pandavanikam vyudham Duryodhanastada Acharyam upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. He says, sure, I see that they have gathered together. And the de facto king, the one who has declared himself the king, Duryodhan, he's surveying the army of both sides. And vyuha is in Sanskrit strategic arrangement, strategic locations, the posts, strategically posted, which champion, like in cricket, the fielders have their positions, or in football, there are certain positions that the people take, even in soccer, right, basketball, there are different positions that different players take, because these are all battles. One will win, the other will lose. Everyone wants to win. So was this here. And so there were strategic posts. Both sides had thought of who to place where, how much infantry, how much army to surround around that person, which direction should he face, how are we going to attack, how are we going to surround and compel them to surrender. And so Duryodhan, surveying all of that, goes near his preceptor, Dronacharya, and then said, so next several shloks that I skipped, but it was this, that surveying the strategic posts and the locations of both armies, Duryodhan approached his master, if you want. He didn't respect him as master, but Dronacharya was Duryodhan's master. Said this. What did he say? I'm skipping a bunch of shloks. Essentially, he goes through, briefly narrates, dear sir, I see this and this person on that side. Looks like they have a bigger post there. Looks like there's some collection of army here, so they must be thinking of some strategy there. all that. Yeah, I see these warriors here. Bhim is there. I see Arjun sort of going around in his chariot. So this is setting the context for the war. So he very briefly goes through that, names a few that he kind of has some regard for, will give some place. Yeah, they'll last for a few minutes on the battlefield. So he names a few which we're skipping, but then he turns and spends a lot more time on his side. He turns around and says, and now when I see our side, he's just beating his chest, right, tightening his collar, saying, Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Krupascha Samitinjaya. This is the 8th shlok. So congratulations, we went through 7. Ashwathama Vikarnascha Saumadattis Tataivacha. So he says, yes, I mentioned all those. Now look all the mighty warriors on our side. Bhavan, you yourself, he's saying to his master Dronacharya, he was supreme, so very super talented in weaponry. At the time, there was no greater teacher of weaponry than Dronacharya. He said, you are with me on my side. Bhishma, well, and this grand side, this grand pupa, this father of all, nobody can, this big daddy is on our side, Bhishma. Krupa had been given the Chiranjeevi, he had the boon, the blessing of living as long as he wanted to live. And that had made him fearless, naturally. Because Bhishma obviously had Ichchamaran, but Krupacharya was also Chiranjeevi. So there's two people with him for whom there was no fear of death. Bhishma, because he had this, you will decide when you want to die, was the blessing that he had received. You alone will decide when you are ready to leave this body. No one else will be able to do anything to make you leave this body until you decide to. And Kripa Acharya had this blessing that you will as if live forever. You have a very, very long life, able-bodied. So he's saying, yeah, he's on our side also. And then Ashwathama was Dronacharya, his master, his guru's son. And the idea there is that the father wants to give everything to his son, right? The fathers in us, we know that there's nothing we want to spare. We want our sons to sit on our shoulders and see farther than we can, and then tell us what they see, so we will also grow with them. But first, take this refuge. Take everything I got. If not for you, then for who else? Use it, harness it, leverage it, ride it. And so the idea here was Ashwathama being Dronacharya's son, there would be no secret weapon, there would be no mystery, there would be no trick, there would be no strategy that Dronacharya would not have given to his son. Ashwathama is his only son. He only had one child, one son. And he had raised him as a single father. And so it was very, very dear to him, very fair. And he was very good and strong and able to, worthy of his father's teachings. So Duryodhana is saying, I have you right in front of me. I have Bhishma, who alone can decide when he wants to die. I have Kripacharya, who has this long life forever as able-bodied. I've got Ashwathama, your son. He is as if you, except younger, so better, faster, upgraded version of you. And then Vikarnascha is like loyal brother also. So he's saying, yeah, they've got Bhim. Last time I covered that, right? Who else? And look at, so what is this? What is this a joke? This is, he's ridiculing it. Anyecha bhava shura madarte tyakta jivitaha nana shastra praharanaha sarve yuddha visharadaha. That's the next shlok, which is 9th shlok, and it's a very significant shlok because of the subtle meaning that it carries. So he's saying all these 5-6 people, I mean, he himself was a recognized warrior. Duryodhana certainly had his own prowess. And he says, Anye, like so many, innumerable, Bahavo, countless, Shuraha, very brave, very innumerable, and so such brave warriors. Mad arte, for my sake, for me. Tyakta jivitaha. They've come here to sacrifice, give up their lives for me. They're ready to fight till the end. This is a decisive battle. Only those will live who will win. Those who will lose will not live, will die. He did not realize what he was saying. In that, subtly, the truth came out of him. Tyakta jivitaha. These have all come here to die for me. What's that telling you, Duryodhana? If you paused for a moment, if you thought about it. Mad arte tyakta jivita. They are going to die because of me. He doesn't mean this way. He's saying, look, they're willing to give up their life for me. So many mighty warriors, countless of them. There's just absolutely no issue for them. But in saying what he said, how he said, the truth was suggested. Madarte tyakta jivita. They shall perish. And they do perish. Right? Because they are fighting for the wrong cause on the wrong side. And the wrong will be annihilated. The Lord had made his decision. The time had come. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharat. Right? Anytime goodness is about to pass out, glani is passing out, I will descend, and just before it falls, I will uplift it and securely lodge it, hoist it up, and destroy the miscreants, re-establish goodness, suppress injustice, and then leave. That shloka will come several months later, not in this chapter, not even in the next chapter, so let's leave it there. So, but I find it very amusing anytime my mind goes to is that he just inadvertently spoke the truth. Anyecha bhavo shura madarte tyakta jivitaha. They've all gathered here to die for me. Nana shastra praharana. They're all yuddha vishada. They're all experts. They're all subject matter experts. They're all SMEs in their fields. Someone in using this weapon, someone in that, someone in this war strategy, someone in that. They've all gathered and assimilated here, and they're all right behind me, fighting on my behalf. Last time I had mentioned to you, 2/3 of Indian kingdom was fighting on Duryodhana's side. Majority of them out of no choice, for fear of losing their own kingdom. And about 1/3 were on this side. So they were outnumbered and outstrengthed also. And so therefore he concludes in the next verse 10, Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma virakshitam. Paryaptam tvidametesham balam bhima virakshitam. It's endless and limitless. I can't even see how far our army is stretching. Not only outnumbered, but right in their senapati, their general, is Bhishma, who has this boon that he will not die until he wants to die, no matter what. So the game over. On the other side, I see the pillar-like beam, and yeah, I can see the end of it. When I climb up my chariot, I see that it ends. It has an end. There's a limit. These are literal translations of this verse. That paryaptam, aparyaptam. Aparyaptam is limitless. Paryaptam is limited. Bhim, Bhishma. Rakshitam is protected. Their limited army is protected by this pillar-like beam. Our unlimited army is sheltered by this invincible, indomitable Bhishma. And therefore he's so confident. Therefore, like I said, Dhritarashtra in the first verse called it Yuyutsava, Utsav, celebration. We were going to win. What's happening there? Festival, sort of tayari, preparations happening. So, let's see. Let me pause here for a moment. We can pick up I'll do one more shlok, and then we'll pause here because there's one concept that I want to make sure that we hammer in today, and then we'll do a few minutes of dhyan, and we'll invite welcome reactions from you all. And then I'm certain next time we'll be able to finish the first chapter. This is way, way speedier than our normal. Each chapter takes several months. Here we'll finish in 2 or 3. Well, first chapter is also has that kind. So the last sloka for today is number 15, and then next time we'll pick up at number 21. So think of as if today we have completed 20 verses of the first chapter. So it's Panchajanyam cha Rishikesho Devadattam Dhananjaya Paundram Dadmo Mahashankam Bhima Karma Vrukodara. These are various conch shells. Those were like the sirens and the bells and the whistles. At the time, the announcements, each warrior, as he would get ready, he would announce it by blowing his own conch shell. Right, I'm ready, bring it on. If you cannot wait for the war to begin, it's going to start at 8 o'clock. It's 7:45, but I'm all set. I'm prepared, I'm set. And it's also basically saying, like giving confidence to your own army that, all right, so many of my warriors are all set already. It's also trying to put fear in the chest of the other side. Oh, he's ready. Oh, wow, he's ready. Oh, they're all ready. But we better get ready, trying to make them nervous. So these are war strategies of the time. But each one had a different conch shell. The conch shell had a name, it had a characteristic, and they each had a story associated with it. How did they procure it? How did they obtain it? Which is why I picked up. Not to mention all of those, but for example, Panchajanya was the name of Krishna's Shankha, conch shell. And there is a story associated. There was a sea monster, not Loch Ness, but actually Panchajanya, a named sea monster, who Krishna had to battle with once. And then the monster was hiding in this humongous shell. And so after the demon was destroyed, Krishna kept the conch shell, and that was Panchajanya. It's also Panchajanya, fivefold. Panchamahabhut. So Prithvi, which is earth, Jala, which is water. These are the 5 basic primordial elements. In any matter, in any substance, you will find some combination of these 5. And quite often all 5. Like in us. In all of us, all 5 exist. The original elements, right, of creation. The most basic elements of creation are 5-fold. Pancha. Ja is born of Janya. Everything that's born of these 5 combined together, taken shape, is Panchajanya. And he holds it in his hand. You can blow through it, if you know what I mean. He uses it. It's his instrument. So, what are those 5 elements? Earth, water, fire, wind, and space. Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, Tej, and Akash, space, empty space. Not skies, but space. So, made of those was Krishna's Shankha for all of those. So this is however you want to believe it or not, up to you, no insistence. But to me, there is endless connotations and significance of each word in it. And I just want to share one example of it. There are others like that. So for example, Dhananjaya's conch shell was Devadattam. Dev is a demigod. Datta is given by. He literally had been actually given by that Shankha by a demigod, and it had certain characteristics that when this sounds, whoever hears it will want to run away from that place, or at least have this momentary feeling of being chastised. Poundram was Bhim's Mahashankam. So it created the sound of drums beating, for example. So I will leave it there. Rishikesh is the name used for Krishna here. Panchajanyam Rishikesho. Rishik, R is Hriday, heart. Rishik is the cavity of the heart. Ish is the ruler of the heart. Is the ruler of Rik, the ruler who sits in the cavity of the heart and rules from there. The one who is inside me, inside heart, inside anyone, that heart not necessarily as the organ, heart as the core of it. Like we say, what is at the heart of it? It's the heart of that story, the heart of the movie, the heart of the person. But not, the story doesn't have an organ. The point doesn't have an organ, but it does have an essence. It does have ashay, right? It does have essence. It does have the center. Everything has a core. No matter what its center of gravity, center is there. Might be wobbly, but the core is there. Everything has a core. Everything is built around the core. It is the core that sustains. And in the core is the principle of sustenance. And that's Rishikesh. In the cavity of the heart, sitting who governs. Isha is governor. Ish Shabda has E and Sha. Sha implies ruling ability, rulership, lordship, the ability to control. And E implies goodwill, well-wishing. And so he is a ruler who is not just an evil ruler who is supremely powerful but evil or neutral or uncaring or disregarding or indifferent. Although very powerful, no, he is that, but he's also very kind and caring and regarding. He is not just like a very kind and regarding, nurturing person. He is that and supremely powerful, and that's E plus Sha. Isha. Rishik, Isha. That supreme, well-wishing, powerful, almighty who rules and controls and guides and governs from its core, from the core of every being. Vasudeva. That's Rishikesh. Panchajan, and he's holding this instrument, this appliance, this tool made of all the 5 elements in his hand. So that was today's last shlok. Again, we've covered ground up to 20. I am certain we will finish the first chapter next time. I will leave you with this thought. I talked about how Arjuna is confused in this chapter. There is the Duryodhana, the evil one if you want to call it, and there is the good one also if you want to call it the Atma. So intellect, right, inside our rational faculty or ability to rationalize and make sense, or sense-making ability or intelligence or buddhi in other words, is as if in the position of Arjuna, confused. Generally knows, normally knows, definitely is very capable, but is confused. Not knowing what's right and wrong. Its job is to determine what is right and wrong. It is wired for that. It is able to do that. It is adept at discriminating between right and wrong. But today it's confused. It's being pulled. The mind is confusing Duryodhana. The mind absolutely wants to go wherever it wants to go. Like Duryodhana, will not listen to the buddhi, will not yield, will not give in, will not hand over to buddhi. Like he mentioned the 5 warriors, Bhavan, Bhishmascha, Karna. I forgot to mention now everything about Karna. Yeah, maybe next time we'll pick up on that, otherwise we'll not have enough time. But Karna was the 3rd one mentioned as mighty and arguably more than Arjuna himself. Any one of these 5 could have easily, it was the belief, not the truth, but there was the belief in their might. So just as he names 5, Bhavan, Bhishmascha, Karnascha, Kripacharya, I mentioned, and Ashwatthama, right, the 5th one. The mind also says, well, I've got my eyes to see. Anything I want to see, I can see whenever I want, everything. I got it all. I've got my ears. I can hear whatever I want, whenever I want. Who can control me? I've got my tongue. I can taste this, that, eat this, that, right? I've got my sense of touch. And I've got my nostril, I've got my nose. to smell the perfumes and the fragrances of all kinds and of people. So these 5 different, I can do whatever I want, I can treat people however they want. The corrupt mind ruling over the reasoning faculty, suppressing the brain, the intellectual ability to discriminate between the right and the wrong, and the brain for momentarily confused, like, wait, what? Who is in control? What is right? What should I do? I don't want to, I know this is wrong, but I don't want to suppress my mind. I don't want to cut off my nose. I don't want to permanently plug my ears. I can't do that. My tongue I have to feed. Don't I? Do I have a choice? I guess I don't have a choice. I just have to yield to them. I just have to surrender and leave this battlefield. I don't think there's any point, because I can't kill my mind. It's mine. It's dear to me. It's near to me. How can I get rid of my own mind? It has been with me the whole time. And so Duryodhana is in the position of the mind. Arjuna is in the position of the intellect, the brain. The owner, the Atma, right, is in the position of the real identity that is lost here. Intellect is not able to find who, what real. And then there's the Paramatma, of course. Krishna is there. And the 5 senses, the Bhavan, Bhishmascha, Karnascha, Krupascha, Ashwatthama. So allegorically speaking, there's that inner battle that constantly goes within us. And we get confused also. We also don't, our brain doesn't understand how to discriminate, how to control our mind. We know these guys are wrong, these guys are bad. I should not eat this, I should not see this. I should not be hearing this, I should walk away from this, I should leave it alone, I should not touch it with a 10-foot pole. It's too bad, so sad, my mind wouldn't listen. What can I do? Therefore I have to do it. Duryodhana is just so haughty. He's just so obstinate. He throws tantrums. I have to. Therefore I shall not fight. Govinda, I shall not fight. That's where the first chapter ends. So, pause and dhyan, a few minutes, and then you have the floor.